Fort George Island, just hanging out on a tree, enjoying being outside, checking out my boat, watching all these little crabs that are also hanging out on this tree with me. And I'm gonna have my sandwich and a little snack here shortly. Hey guys, I came for a kayak, a little paddle today out at the Fort George Island park, and I put in at a little boat ramp that's just behind the Ribault clubhouse. I've never been out here before, so I'm just kind of checking it out. I found a cool little spot to just hang out and stretch my legs, look around, enjoy everything. But I was thinking about why they named that place the Ribault Clubhouse, and then I was thinking about there are a lot of things actually in Jacksonville that are named after by Europeans of this area, like Huguenot Park, Ribault High School. I don't know, there are other things I'm going to think of as I talk about this, but they are named those things because Jean Ribault was this French naval officer, and he was sent here, I think it was in 1565 or 1564, to bring a group of French Huguenots, which were they were Protestants, so they were people that wanted to break away from the Catholic religion, and they were being persecuted in France. So he was bringing them over to North America to set up a colony, and also so France would be able to probably get some resources and trouble the Spanish, because the Spanish used this route down along like Jacksonville and the coast of Florida to get down to the Caribbean and to South America, and they would have their treasure ships, and they were often pirated and raided by whoever came across them. But anyway, he came here and brought a group of people. And they set up Fort Caroline, or they were staying in Fort Caroline after he relieved this guy, Rene Laudonnière, I believe. But shortly after he got here, the Spanish were really uncomfortable with the French having a colony set up so close, because it's really only about 40 miles, I think, north of St. Augustine. So it was pretty close to there, and that's where the Spanish had set up their fort. And they had set that up primarily as a military base. They wanted to be able to protect their Spanish treasure ships as they were coming up and down the coast, so it was a good spot. So they didn't really like the French being so close by. And I believe the way this happened is that Jean Ribault was leading a group of his ships out to sea. So they sailed out of the St. John's River, the mouth of the St. John's River, which they called the River of May at the time because it was founded in May. And I believe that Jean Ribault actually named it that. Anyway, so they sailed up the St. John's River out into the ocean, and then they were sailing down south. Well, then a hurricane comes along. These guys get swept up in a hurricane. They're like swept down the shoreline down to Daytona Beach, and some of them survived too, which is kind of crazy because it didn't go well for them in the end anyway. But so while that was happening, Pedro Menendez, he was in charge at St. Augustine, and he found out about this, or somehow he heard about it. He knew that the French sailors had basically abandoned the fort and probably taken most of their military people with them. So he orders his troops in the hurricane to march up the 40 miles to Fort Caroline, and to basically attack the fort because it wasn't really being well defended at the time. They did. They won. Then Menendez ended up tracking down Ribault, and I believe it was like 300 men he had left down near the Daytona. It's where the Matanzas Inlet is. And they captured them, and so they ended up executing those people for a couple of different reasons. I believe it was said that if they had agreed to convert back to Catholicism, they might have let them survive, but, they didn't. And so the Spanish put them to death, and that's how that goes. And we still call that inlet Matanzas Inlet. But yeah, that's sort of the history of this area. I know that was kind of dark, but I mean, I guess that's what happens. World domination, you're spreading out, you're colonizing, you're trying to make the world into something that you want it to be. So sometimes there are bad things that happen. But I would still suggest getting out, learning some more stuff. I might have misinterpreted some of that. I apologize if I did, or if I said it wrong. But yeah. So I was just paddling back to get back to the Ribault Club to take my boat out. I've been out here for about 3 hours, just paddling around, seeing stuff, hanging out on fallen trees and whatnot. But I saw these white birds in the distance, and I thought they were egrets for a minute, because remember, I'm a secret birder. But I paddled a little bit closer, and I just realized that they're not at all egrets. They're white pelicans. So it looks like maybe they're nesting over there. I don't know, I'll have to research that a little bit. I don't know what their nesting situation is, but I just thought that was pretty cool. I'm gonna try to zoom in on them a little bit so you can see, but I don't wanna get much closer in case they are nesting over there, and I don't wanna disturb them. Anyway, animals for the day. I saw a kingfisher too, but I was too slow to get a picture, so next time that'll be my goal. There they go, they're white pelicans. That's a great blue heron, hanging out on a dock, enjoying this day. I am back to the ramp. I'm kind of shocked because I've been paddling for 3 hours, and I know it's almost low tide, but I didn't expect the water to go out this much. It was all the way up there by that sign in the palm tree when I first got here. So it's crazy how extreme the tides can be when we have a full moon.